Good morning, everyone. I'm glad you're all here. It's going to be a fabulous morning. Please turn off your phones. We don't want any interruption during the music. There are sheets on the chairs that give the music performance. If there isn't one on your chair, there's some up here and they're spread around. Just reach around you and find one if you don't have one. Also, today is Colleen Spadali's birthday. Don't know how old she is, but we're going to sing her a little ditty. To you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy
Oh, this is a new microphone, so we're testing its capacity, and apparently I have to go somewhere to be out of the screech. Is that better? I'm sorry. You know you're in the presence of professionals when after 2 notes they pick up the key. That is amazing. It is totally amazing. These 4 musicians have incredible bios that if just one of them would use up more space than we usually give to one person, so to 4 people. So it's really worth just Googling Deepwood Strings and see where they have come from, what they have done through their lives and still are doing. What you may or may not know about musicians, we'll keep making music until you pay us to stop. Because there's just so much music out there, we just can't get to it all. And I'm happy to say that I've made music with all of these dear colleagues for more years than I was thinking about. It was a lot, okay? So you've all been told about your cell phones. This is your second reminder. Seriously, there are people who think they've done it, and then you're the ones that go whack, 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 whack in the break. So the program is just going to be astonishing. You can see it represents every era in music. And what you may or may not know is all the composers you know about wrote in different things. It's like different ways for different groups. Just like if you say there's an author that does certain genres. Well, most of the fine composers wrote for big orchestras. They wrote a little bit for choir maybe, but they usually did a lot of chamber music writing because musicians like to get together and make music together. And these people have been doing that for years, as have other ensembles. And so what a treat to be getting this amazing selection of music. They're going to talk to you about it, and there will be a question and answer period at the end also. At the end, sort of close, whenever they feel like it, they'll take an intermission. At the end of the intermission, I'm going to do this. Woo! Or maybe not that close. That's instead of begging you, pleading you 53 times to please stop talking. Okay. So if you want to join me in the note, this is actually I rehearsed with a group. Yeah. Right. That's being more polite than okay for the 5th. I mean, poor Mark had to say for the 5th time, and everybody just kept on talking because we like doing that. But we are here to hear this music, so please join me in, I was going to say, we all know each other. There are other musicians out there, and I often say it's a good thing we know each other because otherwise we wouldn't have any friends. It's not that we're dreadful or anything, it's just that we get hired to play or sing for the good parties, we don't get invited to the good parties. We don't even get served at the good parties. Trust me on that. Okay, so with no further rambling on my part, please welcome the Deepwood Strings.
That was Brandenburg Concerto number 3, first movement. Good morning. That was our good morning to you. We just jumped right in. Oh, closer to the mic. Okay. So thank you very much for being here. Okay. So there's really no need for you to applaud in between songs because we're playing a lot of songs until the intermission. Unless you are just really want to, you can. It would be okay. But you don't need to. So let's see. This is the members of our quartet. Julie Rundquist on violin. Laura Owens on violin. Me, I'm Kathy Heithaus on viola. And Georgianne Young on cello. You'll notice that we play musical chairs up here. Julie and I alternate playing viola. I'm going to play viola the whole first half. And sometimes I'll play violin too, also. And then in the second half, Julie will play the viola. And Laura and I and Julie alternate playing first violin. So there's first violin, second violin, viola, cello. And Georgianne stays right there. She plays the cello. Nobody else wants to play the cello. Nobody else can play the cello. Oh, they don't want to carry it. That's right. That's probably true. Okay, if you're wondering why we talk to each other once in a while up here, it's so that we are sure that we're playing the same piece. That's one of the first things that chamber musicians should do. And also, if everyone is lost except you, follow the ones that are lost. I have more to say. So I'm going to tell you about most of these Baroque pieces. The Madrigal is written for 3 violins, this arrangement, and so just the violins are going to play it. Purcell was considered one of the greatest English composers, and he wrote over 100 songs and an opera. Okay, the Minuetto by Corelli, as well as an internationally well-known composer, he was a virtuoso violinist. He was called the Prince of Musicians. Although he was a fine violinist, he rarely wrote any music for the violin above the high D on the E string, which is not very high. And he once refused to play a Handel piece because it was written too high for him to play, which makes me like him even more. Okay. All right, and then when we're ready to play the Passacaglia, Georgianne's going to talk about that. Thank you.
So you see on our program that we are taking you around the world and also through time. And we are still in the Baroque period here with this next selection called Passacaglia by George Frederick Handel. George Frederick Handel is a little confusing because although he was born in Germany and they honor him there and have statues of him and claim him, he lived most of his life in England, where he was composing operas, oratorios, and of course the Messiah, that she's famous for. He was born in Halle, Germany. Is this on? And interestingly enough, if she doesn't mind me mentioning, Kathy's daughter has lived in Halle for years now, and her 3 grandchildren. So when she wants to see them, she has to travel to Halle. And see Handel, yes. And he died in Westminster, England. His dates are 1685 to 1759, which are very, very close to the dates of Bach. And Bach's dates sort of define the Baroque period for us. Bach lived 1685 to 1750, and Handel lived 1685 to 1759. So there's quite an overlap. However, they never met. Even though they were a lot of times in very close together, they never met during their lifetime, or after. We don't know about that. He became a naturalized British citizen, and he's considered one of Western music's greatest composers of the Baroque period. This work, we call it, is Passacaglia, which is a Baroque dance variation form, and it's similar to the chaconne. It's based on a slow bass line, and Passacaglias are usually in triple time. I learned it, and I found it interesting that although the chaconne, which is very similar, was meant to be danced by female dancers and couples, while the Passacaglia used male dancers. So This is based on a very repetitive bass line, similar to the Pachelbel's canon that you probably all know. Although in the canon, the bass line repeats over and over in the cello for over 40 times. And in this, the bass line is repetitive, but then it transforms and is transposed into a higher registers and is decorated with lots of different rhythms, and it's carried through the other strings. We're going to play a couple variations or examples before we play. One is to show just the plain bass line, and then how it's decorated and brought up to an octave and that kind of thing. Okay, we'll play. This is example one. Again and again. And this is example 2. It shows what happens in the upper strings with that. I forgot to say that this is just really a theme and variations. So this is the one variations. In this third and last example, you'll hear that the bass line is transformed up and kind of turned around. Now play
The next thing, we're going into the, are we loud? Yep. We're going to the classical period, Mozart. Everybody knows Mozart. And we're going to play the Eine kleine Nachtmusik, which means a little night music. I guess you all know that. He used a really popular way of writing some music in those days. It was called the Mannheim Rocket theme. And he put it in the beginning of this piece. So it's a broken chord. It's like an arpeggio. Ba-da-da. Yeah, like that. Thank you. That's exactly right. Good job. Yes. So anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say about that song. Thanks. we're going to play something by Ravel. No, we're not. Oh, no. Well, I think I better turn my page back then. Okay, no, we're gonna, that's why we always check. All right, yeah, no, we're not. I'm glad you have programs, thanks, guys. All right, Haydn, or Papa Haydn, he lived a long life, and he had a great sense of humor. For example, the final movement of his Farewell Symphony has musicians gradually leaving the stage until there's no one there. And he wrote that for Prince of Esterhazy, to tell him that the musicians were overdue for a holiday. Considered to be the father of the string quartet because he wrote so many. He wrote 68 quartets. They're all different and they're all delightful. He defined the 4-movement structure of the string quartet, and it has become the standard of all musicians and composers since then. Usually starts with an allegro movement followed by 2 slower movements. Often one is a minuet, and the last movement is usually a fast romp. So we're going to play a minuet from a Haydn symphony, string quartet. Pavane by Ravel. It's a whole different thing. You'll hear lots of different harmonies in this because he was an impressionist composer, and he composed really beautiful, intricate harmonies. Is that loud enough for you guys? A pavane is a slow dance. It's a processional dance used to carry couples to the front of the courtroom to present themselves to the queen. It was a very common dance in Europe in the 16th century. He wrote it in college as a piano piece, and he never did like it. He thought it was really dumb. And he did not write it for any particular person. Although it says pavane for a dead princess, it was really for a princess that lived a long time ago, is what he meant. But anyway, so it was arranged for this group for 4 violins, and guess who's playing the 4th violin part? Jordan. Okay, so now we're going into the Romantic era, and we picked a piece for, wait, is it for just 3 violins? Oh, it's just 3 violins. Gotta get my violin out again. and it's called Lift Thine Eyes. It comes from an oratorio by Mendelssohn. Solvik? By Mendelssohn. And it's based on Psalm 121 from the Bible, which describes turning to God in times of hardship. And it's a beautiful choral piece, and that's why I picked it, because it's so pretty. Okay, Johann Strauss II is the more famous of the two Johann Strausses. His father was also a musician. He wrote things, but his most famous thing is the Radetzky March. But Johann, his son, Johann Strauss II, was a really fine musician. He wrote over 500 waltzes and quadrilles and polkas. A sad story, when he was a young boy, he really wanted to be a musician, and his dad did not want him to be a musician. So he snuck away and took lessons from the first violinist in his father's orchestra. But then when his father overheard him practicing one day, he said, "I'm going to beat the music out of you," and he gave him a severe beating. But then, after Johann Sr. abandoned the family for a mistress, the mother said, "You can take lessons again." So he learned music, and he got to be much more famous than his father. So we're going to play the Fledermaus. Wait, what are we playing? Thank you, Fledermaus waltzes.
At this time in our travels, we have gone to, we go to Russia and the Russian period, the Romantic period. And our quartet is excited to have discovered this work that is new to us. The newest piece of our quartet's repertoire is a piece for string quartet by Alexander Glazunov. It's called Five Novelettes for String Quartet. Glazunov, who lived 1865 to 1936, is not as well known as often performed as many of his Russian composers who preceded him and followed him. Although gifted and prolific, his music has been overshadowed by the Mighty Five, also called the Mighty Handful, who worked together in the 19th century to create a distinct Russian style of classical music. This group included Mussorgsky, Rimsky-Korsakov, and Borodin, and others, all of Glazunov, whose compositions seemed old-fashioned and out of date to Prokofiev, Stravinsky, and Shostakovich, who followed him. But Glazunov is known for his conservative classical compositions. He wrote many ballets, symphonies, concertos, works for piano, and 7 string quartets, plus this 5 novelettes. Depending on the source, he composed this piece either when he was 16 years old or when he was 21. We will perform 3 of the movements. The first is a modal, folk-inspired oriental, which moves from a lively dance to haunting exotic lament. The second movement we'll play is interludium, and it is a kind of Russian hymn with a little fugue inside. And you probably all know what a fugue is, sort of like a canon. So you'll hear us imitating each other. And the final movement that we will play today is Alla Spagnola, and it features a wild, passionate, gypsy-inspired rhapsody. These movements are Glazunov's colorful idea of folk music from the Orient and from Spain, with the lyrical interludium heard between the faster, livelier movements.
They're coming back for another hour. I certainly don't want to cut off your applause, except they will be back after the break. So that they most assuredly earned that standing ovation. There isn't live music the best. Yeah. Now, I know it's quite late. We'll have our 10-minute break, but I have to tell you this, that tempo markings in the music, if it's moderato or allegro or something like that, the performers can choose what to do, just how fast or slow. But if it's marked with a dance, there is no choice. You have to do what steps are required for the passacaglia or for the minuet. You may not go too fast, or the dancers won't be able to do the steps. If you go too slow, the dancers fall over. It's it's handed down way before the metronome. People knew exactly what a passacaglia meant. And so I think that's so interesting how you've had about 6 different dance steps dictated. Wish we had the dancers. But thank you so much. Let's take 10 minutes. We'll see you back at 20 past. So we've gone late a little bit, and so I really do urge you to end your conversations and welcome our friends back to bring us, as in the words of Monty Python, now for something completely different. And I think we all know, sadly, Deepwood Strings, that we have an absolute ending time at 12. We're not allowed to go. So sorry.
I think we won't be talking much at all, which is probably good. And so we'll just be playing these folk tunes, and I won't talk about them much because we're going to run out of time. So we'll just play through them. I do want to tell you that Shenandoah was, it got stuck in my head like an earworm does. You know how that is? And Gretchen was in my quartet at the time, Gretchen Jensen, and she and I sat at her piano, and we made this arrangement for our quartet. And each person gets to play the song once. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say.
Okay, these are the souvenirs from Guanajuato, and that was the cheapskate.
You said you skipped some.
We skipped to Shop and Farewell.
So what the last one?
That was, this is now from the souvenirs of Guanajuato. And that was a Plaza of the Cheapskate. And this is the old donkey. And the viola has a beautiful melody of the poor little burro. And then the final one is, the lazy frog. And you're going to hear lots of syncopations and lots of jumps and leaps from that.
So I just wanted to, sorry, my voice is very raspy. We have fallen in love with these pieces. It's from the Woodworks collection by the Danish String Quartet. They arranged a lot of folk tunes, and we've had a lot of fun with those. And so there's mostly these people are still alive. They're contemporary composers and a wonderful string quartet, and they got together as young kids and they became best friends. And so we're going to play 3 of the pieces from the collection. And I wanted to tell you that they love to play together because they're such good friends, and that's a big thing. And I was going to say that's the way we are. We're really good friends because we love being together and working together. Okay. Started with the wrong one, sorry. We were going to do the slow one in the middle, and okay, sorry.
So, pardon, actually, I think you answered all our questions. You spent a lot of time practicing and having fun, and we're so grateful that you brought all of this beautiful variety to us. Thank you very much.